I'm Linda Lewis, and I do narrative sculptures from clay. And so I make people and try to relate some idea through the person. So usually I come up with an idea first, and then I try to decide how I'm going to represent it. I used to be a teacher, and then my husband and I both worked with camps and stuff even before we were married, but also we were teachers, and then we became foster parents to, maybe 3 or 4 kids, and we ended up adopting kids that were in elementary school. And so you become involved in their lives in ways that maybe you wouldn't have if you would have birthed them, I guess is a better way to say it. So you have to, you develop this way of making someone who maybe hasn't felt welcome other places, in my classroom or maybe in your home, and you try to develop something where they do feel cared for or accepted, and so I think that's what the image I try to come forward in my pieces, that people are people, and they all have a human need to be cared for. Usually just kind of in my head I get an image of what would be a great way to represent it, and I sometimes try, it depends on the topic, but I may try to make it quite serious, or I may try to intentionally make it kind of funny or a little whimsical, just because of, it depends on the topic. And then I just get an image in my head, and I try to figure out what method I'm going to use to try to execute it, I guess. The scratching, you'll see that I've scratched in words sometimes, or a design, something like that, and when I put it all over the piece and then wipe it off, or sometimes I use a black overglaze and I spray it off, but it'll settle in the cracks, so all the texture and kind of that shows you that a hand has made it somehow or another. It's like sometimes a lot of scratching, or it might be I press a word into it. That black will settle into those crevices, and so the color that I've added before pops, and there's almost like a sketch-like quality to the piece. So when I started hand building, I thought, I just see that there's so many more horizons or things I can make with this. I feel like I'm more connected with what I'm making. I hope when people look at my work that they see a part of themselves in it, or they say, oh, I knew someone like that, or they might be touched by it. Some things I want people to be touched, but other times I want people to laugh. And there's something about being able to represent something that will get an emotion out of somebody that's not always like, oh. You can experiment with that and how people can respond to it. So, and what I'm trying to do too is to show that in many ways we're so connected, in many ways we're alike. Doesn't matter who comes in, how old they are, or where they come from, or whatever. They all always have almost the same reaction to each of the pieces, and so it kind of shows our humanness, I guess. So that's the part I like.